I'm Clifford II, and welcome to another episode of Impacting Lives That Impact the World.
But so I did Scooby, I did some other things, and then eventually I wound up writing for Archie Comics as of 2007, and I've just been doing a ton of stuff for them.
Well, I see you have some.
Oh yeah, well the latest is this, and I don't know if you, can your cameraman get this?
Just move it up.
Yeah, here we go. This is actually an Obama, President Obama, Sarah Palin story I'm doing with the gang from Riverdale. Nice. And this is what's a two-parter. The first one just came out in December of 2010. The second part will come out in late January, early February of 2011. But I had a great time with this, and they're in Riverdale, and Archie and the gang's in big trouble. So it's been fun. I've gotten to do a lot of original stuff of my own, and I got to do stuff with other people's characters that was fun for me. And it harkens back to that kid who enjoyed reading Archie and watching Scooby and Batman and Superman and Sherlock Holmes and all these characters that I grew up, these iconic characters I grew up with. Now I was actually in a position to add to the canon, and that's pretty exciting.
Now the exciting thing for me when I met you is that you started your own comic book convention, and this is outstanding. Now I'm assuming you were working with other comic book conventions before you decided to create your own. Which seems to be your life is that you watch what others do and you say, I could do that.
Well, I don't know that's exactly my attitude, I mean, that sounds a little bit, egotistic. No, but I mean, reality was, yes, I had been to a number of conventions since I was a kid, and because I knew people in the industry, you knew people who put together certain things, but back in the 80s, mid to late 80s, the industry started moving away from kids. I mean, the industry, not just one company, the industry. It was almost as if my peers and men just slightly younger than me had grown up loving comics, wanting to write them, and when they got a chance to write them, they started making them adult-oriented. Okay. They started really, more and more they were putting in more complicated plots, more extreme violence, language, blood and guts and gore, and just really moving it away from that base that helped establish the industry to begin with, which was either kids or certainly all age. So I started going, guys, just like in mainstream publishing where you have age levels, and you have different genres, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater here. And basically nobody was listening to me because what do I know? I'm not a superstar. And then eventually, I think it was somewhere in the 90s, Wizard Entertainment magazine bought the Chicago Comic-Con, and I knew some of the people involved, got to talking to them. I said, look, let me just have a little floor space to do a kid's corner. That's what I called it. A little area, we'll set it up. It can be for kids, from 8 to 18, but the bottom line is kids can come there, they can take workshops on how to draw and do stuff like that, meet some of the celebrities in the business, maybe see a panel on how comics are created. Just a little small space. They said, okay, fine. They let me do it. It was a big hit with the patrons, with some of the artists who were names who did it, some of my team, from the books I was publishing. Big major success. Never let me do it again.
Wow.
Right. Then a couple of years later in Philadelphia, there's an organization called the East Coast Black Age of Comic Convention, ECBOC. And they were I think in their fourth year. And they said, oh, come on down, do it here. So we went down. They've continued to do Kids Corner ever since. I'm sometimes involved, sometimes I'm not. But they at least got it. There needs to be a place for the kids. There need to be things for the kids. And then, let's not ignore the adults either. So that was a good blend. I met Eugene Adams. Somehow we came together. He was looking for me for a project that I had done. Okay. And he learned that I was doing comic book workshops with kids in the library systems in schools and so forth and so on. So he was working for a university. He said, well, what would you like to do? And we talked, and eventually I wound up doing some projects with him and some of the schools he was associated with. Then, again, he gave me another opportunity. He said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, a professional development workshop or a conference where you meet people in the industry and teenagers and and college students can see that this is really a business too, and there are different career opportunities here. So you said, okay, cool, we can do that. So you set that up, and boom, instead of having like 20, 30 students show up and a teacher, we had over 200 people crammed into this room, teachers, students, you name it, and it came to a point where they actually had to ask us to leave because people didn't want to go.
I remember that.
Okay, so, oh, that's right, you were there too, right. So that was wild, and then, as I said, Eugene, not learning his lesson yet, said, well, what do you want to do now? I said, well, I have always wanted to do a kids comic book convention or an all-age family convention where the books and comics and things that you see there, anybody can pick it up and look at it. They don't have to worry about the language or nudity or sexual content or extreme vulgarity. I mean, keep that for one group. But here's an area where you can bring your little brother or whatever, and they can walk around and it's all good. So he said, oh, okay, let's try and set that up. So that's what we did. And again, you were saying earlier, well, I can do that. No, actually it was like, okay, I know how to organize what I see in my head. And so I reached out to about 10 of my friends who are in the business. I said, look, I want you to come do workshops with the kids. Pretty much the way I'd set up the thing at the other convention. Workshops, panels. We can have a few people showing their artwork. You want to try and sell some of it, that's fine. But it's really about coming together so the kids have somebody to talk to. They can see a possible mentorship scenario, whatever. And parents and teachers coming can also get another view of what we do. Right. All right. So they said, okay, we're going to do that. Okay, so great. So what happened was the internet. Yes. Word went out on the internet. The next thing I know, I'm getting phone calls and emails from all over. And I mean, literally, I had people congratulating me from California I didn't even know. But they're saying, thank you for doing this. It's about time, blah, blah, blah. I'm going, whoa, okay, well, no, thank you. No, that's great. But, still moving forward, this little event, 10 of my friends, maybe 50, 60 people from the community around, the university where we were doing it. And it would all be a nice, simple moment and nice time. By the time the day came, we had over 45 to 50 professionals there. They wanted to do, some had tables for selling things, but the majority of them were there. They'll do workshop with the kids, they'll do all these things with the kids. So that was mind-boggling and scary, because I'm thinking there's only going to be 50 people showing up anyway. We're going to outnumber, or it's going to be an equal balance of bodies here. By the end of the day, we had seen close to 800, 900 people.
So you went from 200 in a small room to 800 in a big area.
You got it.
Wow.
It was really phenomenal. More so because I hadn't anticipated that kind of a turnout. Then add on to that, we had like librarians, a couple of librarians flew in from Chicago to see this event.
Wow.
What? How did that? And then at the end, the doors are closed, all the patrons are gone, and it's just the publishers and artists and writers and hanging around. And they're practically dancing in the aisles. I got to see kids holding my books. The big conventions you can't see it because there's all these adults and these people have drapes. But there was a kid reading my book, and I said, yeah, well, they'll do that if you give them the opportunity to find your book. Right. Yeah. So they said, you got to do this again, right? You're going to do this again, right? I said, well, I had only planned to do it this one time to show others that, because there are people with deep pockets can afford. But no, you can't let this. I'll be back. I said, all right.
Now that was 2007, and ever since you've done it for 3 years straight.
I've done it from 2007 to 10, so 4 years.
4 years already.
And in 2008 we were asked, could we do something different elsewhere in 2009? And what that was could we do a smaller version of it in a couple of different locations. And we had always thought about maybe doing it in a different borough in New York, but I hadn't really planned on going out of state. But people were asking if and I said, well, look, this is a volunteer situation. We don't have funding. We don't have deep pockets here. We're not owned by some major conglomerate. So there were places we couldn't go. And which really still bother me. But we went up to upstate New York, we went up to Buffalo, New York, and the library system and the university up there brought us up. Okay. And so we had a nice time up there, both 2009 and 10. Okay. They brought us back in 10. And more amazing was in 2009, we went down the East Coast to Miami, nice. And we were part of the Miami Book Fair International, where the patron turnout there is over 200,000 people. Wow. So they gave us this huge, it's all outdoors. The majority of it is outdoors around the campus of Miami-Dade University. they gave us this huge white air-conditioned tent, seats about 65 to 70 people. We split it into 2 age groups, 12 and down, 13 and up, and we dealt with ongoing workshops with kids all day long, from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, in in 09 and in 2010. And artists, some of the artists that I know went down with me, and they would take turns going into the tent. In 010, we picked up a couple of artists down there that I knew. Said, oh, yeah, well, I'm going to be here anyway. Can I do anything with you? I'd love to. I said, well, fine. We can book you in there. It's not a problem. So it was, I don't know. We saw thousands of kids,
Tremendous.